Hey guys, it's Loves to Loom here. Today I'm going to be showing you how to create this really cool Tremolo bracelet. This was created by Soul's Provider on Instagram, and he did an amazing job on it. He always makes super cool hook-only designs, so if you haven't seen his account, you most certainly want to check it out. I'll have his link below for you. This takes about 150 bands or so, depending on your wrist size. It is a little bit challenging in my opinion. If you are not used to doing hook-only designs, this may be a little difficult for you. So just a little heads up there. And without wasting any time, let's go ahead and get started. To make this bracelet, you will need to have a double-ended hook and one C-clip. For the first color, I'm going to grab, it will just be for this section here. So I'm going to start with my purple silicone, and we're just going to start with the basic cap band. Once you put that cap band on, I do recommend C-clipping it together. For the next part, it just makes it a little easier. And then you can just sit it at the bottom, like that. So now we are going to add some more bands on using the same color. So we're going to pull this first one through the whole cap band. But before you reattach it, we're going to pick up the left part of the cap band and get it back on our hook. And now we can close off that band that we were pulling through. Make sure that cap band stays in the middle like that. So we're now going to pull 3 more bands onto this left side. So the first one, again, will go through just the first 2. We need to pick up the band furthest to the left and get it back on your hook. And now close off the one you pulled through. We'll repeat that same step again. So we're going to pull this through the first 2. We're going to pick up the band furthest to the left, place it back on our hook, close off the one you pulled through. We'll do that just one more time for this side. Go through the first 2 bands, pick up the band furthest to the left, place it back on your hook, and close off that one you pulled through. Like so. We're going to slide it down. And we'll repeat this on this side. So before we start adding the bands on this side, we need to take the first band off for a second. So just open it up like this. And we're going to scoop down and pick up that cap band and put it on our hook. Like so. Now you can close that band back off. It should be sitting something like that. So we'll now add 3 bands onto this side as well. So we're going to pull this through the first 2 bands. We're going to pick up the band furthest to the left, place it on our hook, close it off. Do the same thing again. We're going to pull it through the first 2. Pick up the band furthest to the left, place it back on your hook, close off the one you pulled through. This is the last one. We're going to pull this through the first 2 again. We'll pick up the band furthest to the left, place it on our hook, and close it off. Make sure everything is in order, like so. So now we're going to pull a band through the middle. Well, it's meant to go through the middle bands. I'm going to pull it through the first 8, and then I'll rearrange the outside too. Now, I like to usually use the same color band that I'm using right now to get this look. But it's a little hard to show, so I'm going to use a different color for tutorial purposes. So this next part's a little challenging. So we're going to pull this through the first 8 bands. So 2, and then the middle 6 makes it 8. Before we close off the other end, we're going to skip the first 3 bands closest to our hook. So move those 3 out of the way. We're going to pick up the next 3 plus the 2 on the end. So all 5 on the end should be back on your hook, and then attach the band you're pulling through. So it'll sit something like this, and now we need to pop these 2 outer bands out like this. Okay, so these 3 should be in the middle of that band you just pulled through. So we're going to switch colors now, and this part is a little tricky because you need to make sure you don't lose this band right here. So the band that you just pulled through, I would just pull on it like that a little bit. So we're going to be pulling this through the first 6 bands. But you want to be careful. You don't want to lose that third band there. When you pull it through, we're going to skip the first band closest to our hook, move it out of the way. You're going to pick up the next 3 bands, like so. You're going to skip the 4th band and pick up the outside band. Then you're going to close off the one you pulled through. So you should achieve something like this. So we're going to do something very similar, but this time we're only going to go through the first 5 bands. And again, make sure you do not lose that 3rd band right there. So we're going to go through the first 5. Before closing it off, you're going to move this first one closest to your hook out of the way. Pick up the next 2. You're going to skip that 3rd one, pick up the very outside band, and then close off the one you pulled through, which should look like that. And now we're going to do that one more time. This one's actually the easiest of the 3. So we're going to pull this one through the first 4. And then we're only going to be picking up the very outside band and then close off the one you pulled through. So it should look like that. So if that was confusing or challenging, rest assured I'm going to do it many more times. So we're going to slide this down so we can repeat this on the next side. So before we start on this side, we actually need to grab these 3 bands and open it up for a moment. So get a nice grip of those 3. We're going to open it up, and we need to pick up those 3 bands that are on the inside there. Get those 3 back on your hook, and then reattach the ones that we were just holding. And make sure they stayed in that order. So it should look like this. And we're going to repeat that same thing on this side. So we're going to pull 3 gold through like we did over there. So the first one's going to go through the first 6 bands. Before closing it off, we're going to move the first band out of the way. And we're going to pick up the next 3 bands. Get them back on your hook. Skip the next band and pick up the outside band. Close off the one you're pulling through. So it should look like that. Our next one's going to go through the first 5. We're going to skip the first band closest to our hook. We're going to pick up the next 2 bands. Skip that 3rd band, pick up the outside band, and close it off. This is the last one, which is the easiest. We'll pull this through the first 4. And then the only one we're going to pick up is this very outside one. Place that back on, and then close off the one you're pulling through. Okay, so it should look like that. And that was one whole section. So now we need to pull an inner band through again. So I'm going to use white just so you can see the difference. So we're going to be pulling this through the first 8 bands. Before we close it off, we're going to skip over the first 3 closest to my hook. So just move them out of the way. You're going to pick up the next 3 plus the 2 outside ones. So all 5 end ones should be back on your hook, and then you'll close off the one you're pulling through. Now we're going to rearrange. These 2 outside ones should be sitting outside of that band we just pulled through, like that. So we're going to switch colors again. I'm going to go back to purple. And this is the part where you need to be careful with this 3rd band. You want to make sure you don't lose that, okay? So just kind of pull on it a little to give it a little bit of length. So we're going to pull this through the first 6. Before closing it off, you're going to move the first band out of the way, pick up the next 3, get them back on your hook, skip over that 4th band, and pick up the outside band. And now close off the one you're pulling through. The next one's going to go through the first 5. Once again, don't lose this band here if you want to pull it up a little bit. So this goes through the first 5. We're going to skip the first band closest to our hook, pick up the next 2, skip over that 3rd one, and pick up the outside band. and then close off the one you're pulling through. Then we'll do the last one. This one goes through the first 4. And the only band we need to pick up is that very outside one. Place it back on and then close off the one you're pulling through. So it looks like that. And now we need to do the same thing on the other side. So we'll slide this all down. So before we can start adding bands onto this side, we need to grab the 3 bands on the end here. Carefully open it up. And we're going to pick up these 3 bands that are in here. Get them back on your hook. And now place back these bands that you were holding. And I'm going to pull on this just so I try not to lose it. So I'm going to grab some more of my purple bands, and now we'll add the 3 onto this side. So the first one's going to go through the first 6. You're going to skip over the first band, pick up the next 3. You're going to skip over that 4th one and pick up the outside one. Close off the one you're pulling through. Our next one's going to go through the first 5. We're going to skip over the first band closest to our hook, and we're going to pick up the next 2. Then you're going to skip that one after that and pick up the outside one and close it off. We have one more to do, and this is the easiest one. We're going to pull this through the first 4 bands. And then all we're going to do is pick up that very outside band and close it. So it should look something like this right now. So we're pretty much starting our next section again. And this is where we start by pulling this through the first 8 bands. We're going to skip the first 3 bands closest to our hook. And we're going to pick up the last 5 end bands like so. Attach the one you're pulling through. We need to rearrange, so pop these 2 outside bands like so. Make sure these 3 are sitting in the middle. And now we can start adding on our next color. I'm going back to gold. So we're going to pull this one through. This is the first one, so we're going to pull this through the first 6. And before closing it off, we're going to move the first band out of the way, pick up the next 3, skip over that 4th band, and pick up the outside band. Close it off. We're now going to go through the first 5. Skip over that first band closest to your hook and pick up the next 2 bands. Skip over that 3rd one and pick up the outside one and close off the one that you're pulling through. The last one goes through the first 4. And then we'll pick up the very outside band and then close off that one you're pulling through. So we'll slide it down and do this on the other side. And in order to do this side, we first have to grab the first 3 bands. We're going to take them off for a moment, and we're going to pick up these 3 bands that are in here. And then you can reattach the bands that you're holding. Okay, so now we're ready to do this side. So the first one will go through the first 6. And then we'll skip over that first band closest to our hook and pick up the next 3 bands. Skip over that 4th band and pick up the 5th band, which is the outside band, and close off that. The next band goes through the first 5. We'll skip over that first band closest to our hook and pick up the next 2. skip the third band and pick up the outside band, and now close off the one you're pulling through. And for the last one, we're going to pull it through the first 4, and then we'll pick up the very outside band, place it back on, and close it off. And voila, we have another one completed. But I'm just going to go ahead and continue doing it so you can certainly follow along. And do not hesitate to pause and rewind as many times as you need to if you're just not catching on to what I'm doing. Alrighty guys, so when you have reached your desired length and you're ready to close it, you would be at this point, and you would just grab whatever color you're on, and you would just bring it through everything on your hook. So it's very simple, and then just bring the two ends together, and voila, you would just C-clip it. Well, actually your C-clip's already down here, so you would just bring the two ends together. So there you have it. I hope it wasn't too difficult. If you continue to have problems after rewinding and watching the previous instructions, then you may want to check out one of the less advanced hook-only designs, which you can also find on my channel. So like I said, this one is a little advanced, but I think it is super cute. This was the Tremolo bracelet by Soul's Provider on Instagram. So I certainly hope you guys like it. If you do, please hit that like button below for us. And if you make it, please tag Soul's Provider and myself, Loves to Loom, on Instagram so we can see them. So yeah, I do appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see you soon at my next video. Thanks guys, bye!